Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you're here. We are going to continue our journey with the Yoga Sutras. And for context, we're in book 2, using this translation by Swami Satchidananda. And we're early in the book. We're on Sutra 2.3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up a little summary that I created so we can look at this while we talk about it. All right, so it's a short sutra, but I wouldn't describe it as simple. In fact, we're going to spend the next several weeks kind of going through each of these things one by one. But today we'll kind of look at what are we getting introduced to. So what we're going to start talking about is what they call the kleshas in Sanskrit. Kleshas are often translated as obstacles. So the things that get in our way. And what is it getting in the way of? Santosha, contentment, bliss, even nirvana, samadhi, enlightenment. So these are the things that we encounter as humans. And I was thinking about it this morning, maybe even as dogs and cats, as I watched my dogs and cats suffer a little bit. These are the things that get in our way. And there's 5 of them. In English, they are ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, and clinging to bodily life. What Swami Satchidananda and other translators say, in some other versions I've read, is that the order that they're listed is actually pretty important. Pretty much because ignorance is the source of the rest of what's going on here. And the word ignorance, I think, in our culture has a connotation of, maybe learned from an academic sense. But what he's pointing to here is not understanding the nature of reality. So how things really are. And the practices that we do in yoga are designed to wake us up to how things really are. So if we think about just the physical practice of yoga, we get on our mat and we do the asanas, or we work with the breath, and we start to wake up to what's actually happening in our body. So a good example for me is sometimes I think, oh, I'm tired, I can't do the yoga today. And there's a part of me that says, well, just go anyways. And then I'm in my practice, I'm like, oh, I feel great. I'm so glad I showed up. But beyond that, there's all kinds of things that cloud our understanding of what's really true, both at a mundane level, like just day to day. We make up stories about what's actual versus what's real. It might be what we think a person thinks about us or said about us. That's just pure conjecture. It might be bigger than that. So our understanding of big questions like what happens when we die. And so what this is pointing to is that this misunderstanding is what causes a lack of the final union or understanding of what yoga is pointing to. So ignorance comes first. And then if we go back to the list, egoism is next, which is basically thinking we're the center of everything. So our misperception that we're somehow in charge or in control of things outside of our control can lead to suffering. The next two I think are interesting: attachment and hatred. And those are really strong words of things that might not always come up as so strong, but attachment as in even to physical objects. We have an entire industry, advertising and marketing, that's designed to help us feel attachment and purchase things and want things that we may or may not need. So it can be something minor, like I really like my coffee in the morning. Or it could be the final of the kleshas, clinging to bodily life. Like, I want to be here and not in whatever else is out there. Coming back to hatred for a moment, this can be subtle, this can be dislike. And if you look at a Buddhist perspective versus a yoga Hinduist perspective, those are the two causes of suffering, attachment and aversion. So hatred's a pretty strong word for the same thing as aversion, but it's what we don't want. And what we're doing through our practices is, hopefully, we'll get into this in a later sutra, is that we're building an ability to be aware of when these things show up and intercept them, and maybe not get caught by them. What the sutras teach is that ultimately, if we're very adept and we do all the practices and we become a master, we may be free from these things. But for the average person, the householder, you and me, well, I shouldn't speak for you. I'll speak for myself. For me, I don't know that I'm close to being free of these things, but my practices have awakened me to, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Right? I'm clinging, I'm hating, I'm really only thinking of myself. So our meditation and our asana and any other version of yoga that we practice is intended to wake us up, and then if we practice enough, maybe free us from those things. So I'm just working on the waking up part at this point. We'll learn in a sutra that's coming up in the next few weeks sort of the stages of that waking up, but for now we're going to do a practice today just to kind of bring awareness to what's present, to start to see what's actually here, or at least peel back the delusions that are the obvious things that seem to be here, so that we can see some things that are more subtle. So I'm going to invite us to create a posture, a physical posture for practice. Sitting, even reclining if you can stay alert. And then when you're situated, you can close or lower your eyes. The first thing I like to do when I come into my practice is just really pay attention to what's real. So starting with your physical body, Sensing into where your body is touching something else for support, chair, cushion. Notice the foundation of your posture. Surrender to it a little bit so that any resistance starts to fall away. And bringing in enough alertness that you're upright and a clear channel for your breath. And then notice your breath. So put your attention on the physical experience of breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to use your breath or any other anchor that you prefer for bringing you into the present moment. When you find yourself going down a rabbit hole or getting too involved in your thoughts. The practice is to bring awareness to attachment. So give yourself permission to scan the last couple days or even up to a week. And identify a moment when something was taken from you and there was some suffering. All right, it might have been a physical object like a cookie. It might have been your time. Somebody interrupted you. Recall your reaction. As you recall, if you aren't, I'll call it proud of your reaction, just a little grace, a half smile. And come back to your breath. So without dwelling or making meaning, just acknowledging and coming back to the present moment. Coming back to your breath or your anchor. Notice what's real, what's happening right here in this moment. Now, think of an experience in the last couple days or a week where there was some aversion. Maybe the word is hatred. I hate it when, fill in the blank. Something simple. Doesn't need to be traumatic or ancient. Could be a pose that your teacher makes you do for a little longer. Chair comes to mind. Could be when your neighbor's dog uses your yard. Even the small things can build a story of revenge. There's an opportunity in that moment when you realize this makes me mad. Not to diminish that feeling, but to acknowledge, oh, there I go again. There's an instant where we can go into story and allow the emotion to take us over. Or we could just notice how it feels. It's like, oh, how does this feel in my body, in my spirit? Get a little more curious about what's actually happening. And then choose how we react. Instead of developing the story of what it means. Recognizing that the story is most likely from ignorance. whole story. Bringing your attention to your body, notice what you're feeling right here. Is there an energy that's stuck anywhere or disturbing your peace? Can you soften? Allow it without resisting. Just what's here. Your breath, your body. A bigger breath. And then one more nice big breath. When you're ready, open your eyes. Any insights? Comments? Questions? Noticing perhaps that you spelled your name wrong when you were typing today or filling out a form, and smiling and not being upset with yourself. Perfectionism is the enemy of happiness. Right? All the little things that could upset us throughout the day. It's like, oh, there I go again. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys listening and sitting and being here. I invite you to just half smile all day long when you notice attachment and aversion showing up for you. Maybe hatred, that's the word that's in the book. Maybe there's hatred at moments. You're like, oh, gosh, I hate that person. Causing my own suffering. All right. Well, I will see you guys soon.